The president and first lady are opening up about the impact of stereotypes in the current issue of People magazine. In an interview, they share some personal anecdotes about their family life, but they also reveal some of the experiences and bias that they have endured, like the president saying he has been mistaken as the help. And in one part of the interview, he goes on to say, it's one thing for me to be mistaken for a waiter at a gala. It's another thing for my son to be mistaken for a robber and to be handcuffed, or worse, if he happens to be walking down the street and is dressed the way teenagers dress. That was the president. Also talked to the first lady about this, and Michelle Obama described what happened to her during a visit to a Target store. She tells people, let me quote her, "The only person who came up to me in the store was a woman who asked me to help her take something off a shelf because she didn't see me as the first lady. She saw me as someone who could help her." Those kinds of things happen in life, so it isn't anything new. Those comments from the first family have sparked a lot of reaction. So let's talk about that in his piece here. CNN contributor and New York Times op-ed columnist Charles Blow. Good to see you, sir. So you wrote this piece, The Obama's Race and Slights, and you open it with this notion back to Michelle Obama's anecdote about being in the Target store. You say, hey, the woman who wanted help, maybe she looked at Michelle Obama, she's a tall woman, maybe she needed a little height to grab something off the shelf. Maybe it was because of some inherent bias that was coming out. We don't know. Your point being, it was how Michelle Obama felt. It's our feelings in these situations.
Absolutely. I mean, we always want to talk about these things as if they're absolutes, if there's a binary, if there is an answer to the question, rather than seeing the importance of actually having conversations about the questions, even when you cannot find the answers. No one knows why somebody asks you for help in a store. I get asked for help all the time. I mean, something about the little old ladies, they always want the crackers at the top, like something about that.
And they see Charles Blow here and they're like, excuse me.
So you always say, I'm like 6'2", so I'm always doing that. But
do you take that as a,
But in addition to that, you know, in department stores, I am always asked, you know, whether or not do I work, not if I work there, do you have this in blue or something? And at the first few times you think it's like, oh, this is just a weird little, funny little mistake we're making, and people laugh it off. And but after decades of it happening, your brain starts to do what your brain does, which is try to make connections, try to figure out what is happening. Why is this happening to me all the time? And certain things, certain patterns develop. It is never men. For me, it is never anyone black for me.
Really?
Never. And so...
Because I was just asked the other day, I was in Bed Bath & Beyond, I'm like, I don't know where the mattresses are. I think they're that way.
Right,
and,
right,
you know, but that doesn't happen to me very often.
But it happens to me literally all the time.
Really?
All the time.
Let me read what the president said. There's no black male my age who's a professional who hasn't come out of a restaurant and is waiting for their car and somebody didn't hand them their car keys. So perhaps to your point, right, that is something that he has experienced, that you've experienced. How do you feel about the first family, though, opening up, of course, in the wake of so much, you know, talk we've all had about race in the wake of what happened in Ferguson and here in New York and beyond, their role to express their own personal anecdotes?
Well, I see all discussions and search for truth as helpful.
You do. You're optimistic.
I'm
You're like glass half
incredibly
full
optimistic.
on all this.
Even when I see polls that
the
show
Wall Street Journal, NBC poll, 40% of 40% of Americans believe race relations are good, which is the lowest that poll has been since '95. You say.
I'm optimistic about that because what I believe is happening is that things that we think, we confuse silence with something being solved. And that is not the case. Just because people are not discussing things does not mean that they are solved. And in fact, when you bring them out, it's messy and it's uncomfortable.
It doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good to us. And so we say, oh my God, things are really bad now because we have to talk about this awful thing that I don't really want to talk about, right? But I see that and I say, you know, this is actually a step forward. When you have to come out and talk about these things, and particularly when everyone talks about it, including the President and First Lady of the United States are talking about it, it's really helpful because I'm not saying that what happened in that Target with the First Lady was a racist incident. Interpersonal things are really hard to suss out. You never know what a person's motives are. You never know if malice is involved.
You can't.
Exactly. There's no way to know that. What I'm saying, though, is if you felt like that was somehow informed by race, it is important for you to get that out because then you can say exactly what you said, which is I've also had that happen to me and I didn't think that, and that helps me to come to understand that this may be a universal thing and I may be able to take this off the table.